Дорогие зрители, приветствую вас. Наш фестиваль продолжается, и мы очень рады, что благодаря нашей онлайн-платформе мы имеем возможность проводить обширную параллельную программу. И сегодня у нас невероятный гость. Она имеет финские корни, но родилась в Калифорнии. Ее становление как артиста и начало пути как раз как хореографа пришлось на ее годы в Америке. И своим творчеством она повлияла на ход европейского современного танца, особенно во Франции и в Италии. Ее постановки всегда полны метафор, аллегорий, символизма, абстракций. Это не просто спектакли, а визуальная поэзия на сцене, как она сама говорит. Это притчи, это монологи о жизни. Она невероятной харизмы и вообще внутренней силы женщина. Ее можно смело назвать таким, как она и сама себя называет, проводником. Она щедро делится тем, что знает, что накопила, что вложили и дали ей ее учителя. У нее есть редкий дар в артистическом понимании искусства, о котором мы сегодня обязательно поговорим. Итак, Каролин Карсон, с удовольствием и радостью приглашаю в наш эфир.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the wonderful introduction. I am humbled for this. Thank you.
I'm really happy to see you and to talk with you and to share with the people what we are talking about. Каролин, прежде всего я хотела бы коротко рассказать зрителям о том, как вообще я пришла к вам и какая история была до, которая привела нас к сегодняшнему диалогу и к его возможностям. Это было энное количество лет назад. Я искала репертуар для фестиваля балета в Японии, который проходит каждые 3 года в Токио и очень значим и важен для любого артиста. Я искала что-то неординарное, новое из современной хореографии для моего дуэта с Владимиром Малаховым. И совершенно случайно в интернет-пространстве наткнулась на постановку «Знаки» с Марией Аньес Жило. Меня невероятно поразила эта постановка и вот его ключевой дуэт. И я, конечно, посмотрела все полотно, настолько тонкая, лиричная, метафоричная история. И мне хотелось так ее исполнить, обратиться к вам, но тогда мы не знали друг друга, и не было возможности как-то быстро найти связь, и как-то это не сложилось. Но в дальнейшем интуитивно я, конечно, вот запомнила это и открыла для себя вот это что-то новое и неизведанное в этой работе. И спустя время я, когда готовила свою сольную 3-ю программу, одним из хореографов был Жан-Кристоф Майо. Он знал меня еще со времен конкурса Лозанны, где именно он мне и присудил золотую медаль и гран-при. И поэтому эта сольная программа как-то возымела такой французский акцент. И я, конечно, думаю, вот познакомиться с Каролин и сделать с ней работу. И вот так я попала в Париж, как раз было в Бастилии этот спектакль «Знаки», где мы с вами и повстречались. Из-за этого вытекает вопрос, что я совершенно уверена, что у нас в судьбе написано, что мы должны были встретиться. И мне кажется, в нашей биографии, в вашей биографии тоже есть встречи и символичные, и не случайные. И насколько вот вы верите в эту фатальность судьбы?
I don't, it's something that comes from Carl Jung. It's synchronicity. You meet someone in time, and that's it. I remember when I met Alwyn Nikolai. I mean, our paths crossed, and he opened the door that never closed. And also, my whole life has been these incredible meetings with dancers, impresarios, and writers. And when I met Deanna, I was sure we were going to have a great work together. I mean, she's a very generous person, beautiful technique, but more than that, I saw in her the poetic side of her personality.
Ну, вот если мы начали разговор о символизме и судьбе, но вот вы очень интуитивно чувствуете мир по-другому. Он у вас иной, более философский взгляд на все вещи, что связаны вокруг вас, и как вы ставите, и как вы разговариваете, как вы смотрите на мир. Скажите, как вы трактуете все события, происходящие сейчас, вот в то сложное время, в котором мы сейчас попали? Как вы трактуете это происходящее? В чем символизм, фатальность того, что творится с нами сейчас? И это что-то разрушение старого, чтобы прийти на смену, и что-то обязательно придет новое.
You know, it's incredible. We're all in this together, the whole world. It's like we're now traveling on the same ship. And I can't predict the future. I don't think any of us can. But I believe, as Deanna said, we will go, I don't know how soon, but into a new phase of humanity. I mean, we must. With the global warming and this pandemic, I mean, our world is on the edge. And it's interesting being an artist now. That's why I write and I do my work, because it's a way of being in the world. And being in the world today, we have to really be conscious and give compassion and positive energy. I mean, it's difficult because there is so much fear today, and fear of the unknown, but we have to keep our spiritual light burning. That's all I can say.
Ну, в истории всегда миру нужны какие-то потрясения, и это как какой-то знак, чтобы задуматься, остановиться и задуматься, что делаем мы правильно, что делаем неправильно.
Absolutely. Because, you know, now it's a choice between life and death. I mean, this is how close we're going now. We don't know what the virus is. We don't know who's getting it. And it's alarming. And personally, I think the lockdown was very good for everyone. First of all, in Paris, we heard the birds. There was no traffic. And people got back to themselves without running. And I think this pandemic is telling us to slow down, to be compassionate with other people, and go back to ourselves, because we seem to be kind of on the exterior side of life. And now what's happening in the world, I think we really have to think of why we're here and what we're doing and what we can do.
И, конечно, соответственно, самоизоляция очень повлияет на творчество, то есть идет какой-то такой накопительный эффект. Художники, они тонкие натуры, и этот опыт обязательно выльется в творчестве, в каких-то, естественно, серьезных высказываниях. Даже сейчас я уже ощущаю, что те постановки и те действия, вот, которые были созданы на карантине, они словно другие, они несут какой-то совершенно другой смысл и отдачу, так как я очень остро это ощутила на нашем конкурсе «Вечере российских хореографов», где постановки как раз-таки были поставлены, новые работы, созданные в это время на карантине. И вот за это время я уже несколько раз была в театре в качестве зрителя, просто даже проверить, насколько моя реакция и вот эта энергия, она такая, как была до карантина. И совершенно неожиданно осознала для себя, что спектакли, которые я видела до карантинного времени и сопереживала, и они были замечательные, и такие же артисты замечательные сейчас играют, но они совершенно не возникают у меня, сопереживания не дают, какое ощущала я ранее. Словно в спектакле я хочу каких-то других тем или другого анализа сегодняшнего мира. И я вот стала анализировать, какой же танец, насколько он изменится и что с ним станет, с балетом или современным. Ну да, классический репертуар — это наследие, это история, он терпит, конечно, определенные изменения, но вот какой будет современный танец, и как она это чувствует и видит, и что нужно сегодня современному танцу, какие в целом перемены нужны театру сегодняшнего дня.
Well, I have seen a few young groups working I haven't seen many, but from the performances I've seen, I found today, 2 months ago at the Cartoucherie, I was witnessing performances, and I found out the young people have a very strong message. At least I'm talking about the French choreographers and the European. And I felt for once from these people that they really had a message to say. From what I saw the suffering of humanity and also the joys of getting free of the suffering. And because, you know, there was the era of conceptual dance where we're not feeling anything. The energy isn't going out. But just recently, I felt the urgency of these young choreographers wanting to say something about what's happening. I would like to say one thing, though, that it's amazing what happens in different countries also. You know, I must say France with the immigrants, okay, with the pandemic, which is terrible now, there's other things happening here. I don't know what's exactly happening in the East, but here in Europe, it's quite something. Maybe because in Italy, France, we've really been hit very hard. And so that depends on the circumstances.
Ну, значит, вот да, что-то такое одинаковое чувствуем, вот особенное, что действительно выходит на сцену и с артистами, и с хореографами. И, конечно, вот то, что она затронула, разные страны, что, конечно, у нас и в Европе она более оптимистичная картина, и артисты все-таки имеют возможность выходить на сцену или репетировать, пускай с ограничениями, но с определенной степенью риска. Мы постоянно ощущаем себя на какой-то пороховой бочке. Будет спектакль, не будет, отменят. Мы репетируем постоянно в какой-то тревоге в Мариинском театре, в постоянном напряжении. И, потому что в любой момент могут отменить репетицию или спектакль. Но вот, естественно, артист не может без сцены, это все бессмысленно, и мы, естественно, возвращаемся в театры, нам разрешают работать. Но в Америке картина совершенно другая, удручающая. Артисты попросту теряют профессию, они в ужасе, все театры отменяют сезоны, неизвестно, каков будет процесс восстановления и возвращения театра в жизнь. И, естественно, глобально это влияет на весь мир. И границы, как были раньше, открыты, и привычный процесс глобализации в искусстве, в том понимании, когда артист и хореограф может работать в нескольких театрах параллельно, сейчас просто невозможен.
Oh, what a difficult question that is. You know, because we're a living art form. Dance, theater, music, opera. It's tragic. I know this here, we've had 2 performances canceled, which will happen the next 3 weeks. And cinemas are closing. And now it's incredible. Theaters are dangerous. They're dangerous. People are afraid to go. They wear a mask. They sit 3 rows apart. But tell you, I don't know what's going to happen because, you know, our work as artists is not a hobby. It's life. It's our life. And I really hope, you know, the thing is, there's so much online now, but online, you can't express the energy. You can see a beautiful form. I mean, you're watching us now on Zoom, but you cannot feel the energy reaching out to the others. And that's where live performance is incredible. So I'm quite alarmed for the future. I'm talking about now and the live performances. I mean, we're still working, but we don't know one day to the next if we're going to perform or not. We're living on the edge. And but I think it's all over for the moment, especially in America. Well, also Europe now with France, who's just going to have a lockdown.
А тогда вопрос вот такой, вот эта ситуация, рисковать или выходить на сцену, или же сохранение себя, или же нужно сидеть условно в заперти. Для меня этот вопрос сегодня еще более острый, потому что помимо артиста я ответственность несу как организатор. И вот перед фондом, фестивалем, там, студиями, теми людьми в моей команде. Как принять этот выбор?
I'm like Diana. I'm a risk taker. I like to take risk, but I'm not so sure now. We just had a week of rehearsal, and one of our dancers was positive. A big shock. Big shock. So now I have to rethink. Are we going to do the next rehearsal so soon? I mean, it's alarming. And just because of what happened, I feel now that, we got together, and the first time everybody was negative. We did not wear a mask because everyone is okay. And then something happened. So this is absolutely unknown. So now I, myself, as Diana's organizing myself, I really have to to think of the others and their life, not only going on stage, but I have to think of a life. I don't know, we're going to have to wear masks and goggles and sunglasses and wetsuits. I don't know. But as you say, okay, we can wear masks, but distance, to do self-distance in dance, theater, or anything. Theater, they're breathing, opera singers. In dance, we're touching. So I really have to be careful the next time we're working. It's quite difficult. You know what it is? We have to work step by step. We're supposed to work together again the end of November. We have to see what the situation is in the city we're going to. Maybe I just have 3. Maybe I tell everybody what they do on solos, online, and they work separately. We are absolutely in the unknown. And day by day, step by step.
Ну, все так же, как и у нас. И, конечно, будем надеяться, что пандемия уйдет, и для нас это останется чем-то вроде назидания, памяти о том, как хрупок мир и мы сами. Ну, хочу перейти немножко от этой тревожности к более позитивным воспоминаниям, и хочу встретить нашу встречу. Для меня было удивительно, насколько Каролина невероятного интереса и любопытства, с кем она знакомится и что она делает. И больше всего меня она поразила как раз-таки вот этой открытостью. И это вот не просто слова, а я помню, как она приняла меня, и было ощущение, что мы просто абсолютно давно знакомы. Это настолько расслабляет и дает тебе определенную степень доверия. И совершенно она поменяла мое понимание и работу как артиста и хореографа. И получилось, что я доверила Каролин не только свое тело, но и свою душу. И делает так, что она открывает людям их внутренние грани, о которых они не подозревают. Так вот и случилось и со мной. И вот я хотела бы спросить о ее учителях, откуда у нее такая мудрость, и это опыт, или это жизнь, или кто-то заложил в нее это, возможно, родители, и создается вообще ощущение, что она родилась такой.
You know what? I was born that way. Okay, going back when I first met Diana, I have a gift of seeing an aura around people. And immediately I saw this aura, not only exterior of Diana, but from the inside. And as I said before, I felt she's a great technical, beautiful, astounding dancer. But I felt even something more of the poetic side in Diana. That's why when, we work together, because I come from poetry. Let's see, I don't know where exactly to start. No, I'll go back. First of all, with Diana, I decided to use a Tarkovsky because I knew she was Russian. And I'm a great fan of Tarkovsky's films. And I discovered that his father wrote some of the scenes for Tarkovsky. He wrote some of the poetry. So I shared this with Diana. And it was amazing because it was her language. It was in Russian. So she could absorb the poetry that I selected for the piece. And now let me back up. Okay, that's the poetic side. You know, I think all my life, I had a grandmother who was born actually in Karelia, which at that time was Russian. She was the greatest lady. She told me to be free. Are we running out? I just hear a, no, okay. She was great. She said, be free, do what you want, follow your heart, since a little girl. And she was the first one. And then I must say, when I met Alwyn Nikolai, the University of Utah, he was the most simple man, generous, open, and great choreographer. And also, he gave me so much, of course, his technique, but also what an artist could be. Open, receptive, spontaneous. And so not only dance, but how do I say, he was very branched in philosophy also, which I loved from Carl Jung. I mean, I grew up university also studying Carl Jung.
Да, но я очень помню тот момент в период работы над «Женщиной в комнате», когда она спрашивала про мое детство. То есть я так понимаю, что это тоже достаточно очень важный период жизни. И она меня спрашивала это не как автобиографию, а рассказать образами, метафорами, что я помню. И вот это такое яркое проявление того, как мыслишь, как насколько воображение невероятно сильно работает, и оно отлично от всех других. То есть это воображение, это абсолютно такой тоже дар, такая большая редкость. И вот Каролин для меня невероятно вообразительная натура, если так можно сказать. И это наверняка все равно закладывается в детстве. Вот что родители вложили, какую почву развития, мышления образного вкладывали с детства?
In terms of childhood, we all come from somewhere. And what do artists create? We create from memory, from our experiences. And I think childhood is one of the most important points. Because you are born with a great innocence. And my parents were incredible. They realized, since I was small, I was playing the piano and I was dancing, but I could hardly stay at the piano because I had to get up and dance. So it was very nice. Sometimes they would put a record on, usually Sibelius or Boris Godunov. My father loved that. And I would improvise just freely. So sometimes they would open the doors to the neighborhood. They said, "You want to see Carolyn dancing? Can you improvise?" And I said, "Yes." Invite my neighbors. So I've always had this spontaneous love to create and to, like you said, imagination. I have a great imagination, and this comes from memories and experiences. And I think one of the greatest things an artist can do, like Diana, is to give her back her imagination. And for the public or anyone who's seeing, we give them back a memory. That's why I love Woman in a Room. because everyone who sees it, they're taking their own memories, especially when Deanna comes with lemons at the end to the public. This was just great. Anyway.
Вот она сказала, что она училась в университете штата Юта, а до этого была какая-то школа. Как ее отвели? Она сама попросилась или ее отвели? И что это была за балетная школа? Это было классического направления или там были какие-то другие танцы? Как она начинала, когда она была девочкой? Это была обычная история девочки, которая хочет быть в пачке и в короне, или совершенно другая история?
Well, 3 years old, my mother took me to dance school. I can still remember I was an elephant running around and then a giraffe. Okay. And then later on, I met my first dance teacher. I was 9, 10, 11. Her name was Claire Lachey Porter. She was actually in the Ballet Russe. Can you imagine? And then she came to the middle of California in Fresno. So I took classes with her. And her sister was in theater. So I had the chance to work with the sister in theater and her in ballet. It was an amazing experience. You see, this was meant to be. So it was ballet and theater combined. And then, so I did classical. I loved it. Okay, I don't know if my dream was to be a ballerina. No, not really. No, that wasn't in my, but you know, I was in high school and we had an amateur class. I was 15. I was a cheerleader and a pom-pom girl in school. And I decided to do something on point. I had a tutu. I was like a canary. And all the boys started whistling. Whoa, whoa, who's that on stage? And do you know what? I put my shoes away.
Forever.
I was alarmed. I said, who am I? And then I decided I was more of a fighter, a cheerleader, than I was a ballerina. But after I went to junior college, and then I enrolled in the San Francisco Ballet School. I was never in the ballet, but there I found, at this time I was 18. Okay, the boys went away. It was okay. I wasn't alarmed. So there were great teachers in San Francisco ballet. And again, I was there 2 years studying at the same time. And then it's strange. I was standing at the bar with everybody. And I said, but wait a minute. I don't think this is me. So I decided I was not a classical dancer. And this is when I enrolled in the University of Utah and I met Alwyn Nicolai in the contemporary dance, modern dance at that time. And that opened the door and it's still open. Right. I still love ballet. But it's not, I couldn't do it, but I still appreciate seeing a good performance. Right.
Ну, вот эта встреча с Элвином Николаем, ну, это имя, она достаточно даже в Америке не столь известна и забыто или недооценено. В России, в принципе, вообще мало кто знает о нем. И сохранились ли какое-то его наследие, какая-то память о нем в плане жизни его работ на сцене, возможности там их увидеть, и кто продолжатели, кроме нее, его стиля и языка? Или это все осело в архивах?
No, but there's archives in New York in the library. I mean, you can see all his videos, but he was a genius. He did the music, the lights, the choreography, and the costumes. He was like a Diaghilev, so to speak. He was a one-man show. I mean, Nicolai has produced many, many great artists because of his technique. I know Robert Wilson, took a class from him, one of the greatest in theater. Many other people who study with him. You see, you can't imitate a master, and he was a master. And because he worked with time, space, and motion, and the most important thing was improvisation. He gave this uniqueness to everyone. In terms of improvisation, you learn to be yourself. So in his compositions, in his classes, you had the opportunity within his concepts to develop your own character, your own visions. Because to this day, I still teach Nikolai, the time, space, motion, whatever, but I go into the poetic step. Robert Wilson went into the absurdity, to this great theater work. And, but you know, I'm talking about contemporary. Okay, the classical has a basic repertoire. Nikolai did not have a technique. Nikolai worked with ideas, imaginations, and concepts. And by all right, I think these contemporary choreographers, it doesn't matter if the one generation never saw them. It's step by step, and for sure the contemporary choreographers. It goes on to other choreographers. It goes on to other times. So yeah, there's books of Nikolai, there's photographs, etc. But we sit on history, but the people who are working now are making history, so to speak. So that's an interesting question. They asked Merce Cunningham just before he passed if he wanted his works to go on. He said no. They're still doing it in other works, but it's true in a way for myself. You know, my company is very special. I mean, like I gave for Diana Vishneva, Women in a Room. I wouldn't give it to anybody else because that was with Diana, for Diana, and it was hers. You know, I work with people like Nikolai did. I don't create steps before I know the person. Then we start to construct together. And that was the genius of Nikolai. Before he did anything, we improvised, which I do today. So, you know what's interesting? Going back to your question, Nikolai, well, I'm from the hippie generation. You know, flowers, love, peace, long dresses. So this generation was free, improvising. We did things in Central Park for free. We did things in theater. There were no barriers. But now, you know what? The flowers, they are roots. We got to work with the roots. See, that's the difference. Right, Diana? Now we go down to the bottom. We got to dig deep. Yeah. Could I say one thing important for the public? When I say improvisation, I just don't mean you can be free. Nikolai always worked with a specific theme, like the sense of time passing. Or the distance in space and in. So you could go deep in a problem. As I improvised with Diana, there's always an idea. It's not, improvisation is not free. It's based on a specific theme. And within that theme, you can go deep in the vertical perceptions.
И как произошло расставание, она ушла из труппы, что повлияло на то, чтобы сделать этот шаг самостоятельное плавание и жизнь?
I was 7 years with Nikolai, and believe it or not, I was with my companion in that time. He helped with the lights with Nikolai. And we had a tour of Nikolai in 1970. And we were at Théâtre de la Ville. And on the next night, we went to see Robert Wilson. I was shocked. 5 hours in slow motion. I have never seen anything like that. What Robert Wilson did was incredible. 5 hours. I mean, you have this train coming across. It probably took an hour to get across. You can go out and take a coffee and come back, and the train was there. I was amazed, and I always choreographed in New York, and I choreographed for composition class. I turned to John, my companion, and I said, I have to leave Nikolai. I have to leave. We have to do my work. I said, 7 years with Nikolai was great, but I felt this urge. I had to do my own work. And then I went back to New York, and I told Nikolai, I'll never forget this. I said, Nick, I have to leave because I have to do my work. He had tears in his eyes. We both cried together because I must say I was one of his favorites. And he looked at me. He said, no one's irreplaceable. Me? Not irreplaceable. This was the best shock I've ever had. So he said this to be strong and kind at the same time. That means you go off on your own, you do what you want, and we'll find someone else. So after that,
Компания Анны Беранже, да? Анна Беранже была следующая, да, компания.
Yes, I was invited to work with Anne Beranger. And that's why I met these great musicians. I met Béjar, all the great musicians which I worked with in the future. And then we did a production in Avignon. And the work is very new at that time for the public. Béjar and I shared the program. No, it was Misha van Ook and myself, 1971. And Béjar, first we opened, it was called Antigone, a very strange piece with chairs falling, the dancers ripped clothes, really one of my best pieces after Nikolai, based on Nietzsche, Zarathustra. And second half was Misha van Ook, who came from Béjar. In the beginning, people booed me like crazy. They booed me off the stage. I had boos and bravos. And then Misha was the second half, big wild applause. And then they called me back on stage. And the people said, well, something's happening here. So in 1971, all of a sudden, everyone started talking about the work and who's Carlson. And even Béjar said, yeah, you're something. Thank you, Béjar. So that was one step.
Да, это вот такой европейский период, и да, и второй или третий Дягилев, Рольф Либерман, то имя, которое, конечно, также повлияло на судьбу Каролин, как я знаю, швейцарский композитор, дирижер, и его годы работы в опере, конечно, очень обогатили театр репертуаром, потрясающими яркими художниками, артистами того времени. Именно он пригласил, я знаю, ее в Парижскую оперу. И, получается, он дал дорогу как хореографу уже и даже на большую академическую сцену, что, наверное, в то время было огромной редкостью. И вот как они встретились с Рольфом Либерманом и как это предложение поступило?
Well, I was born under a star. This was another meeting. Alwyn Nikolai, and then I meet Rolf Lieberman, the greatest impresario in the world. And he loved to take a risk. He was a risk taker, and I was ready. And he asked me to do a solo for the Paris Opera, for the Avrez program, which I did, which comes from the famous, this photograph, Arabesque. That, okay. So anyway, that seduced the public. They said, who's that? Because I had a ballet background. I had a great Arabesque, plus I had the contemporary repertoire. And so Nikolai also knew me from Alwyn Nikolai. And I did a work with him in Hamburg also. So he asked me to would I like to start a group in the Paris Opera. You see how inventive this guy was. No one thought of that. There was no ballet, there was no contemporary or modern company in the opera house. So he said, we'll start a group of research. No, I must say before that, he said, you try to work with the dancers from the Paris Opera. Well, this was 1970s. The first day I taught 30 30 dancers. And I said, just stand up simple, not like this, be simple. And then we did floor work, you know, we kind of improvised. And they said, okay, bye-bye. The next day, I had 10 people. I had 10. And then I said, what am I going to do? We did the same thing. And they go, oh, no, no, no. The last day, I had 3 people from the Paris Opera. So I said, Mr. Lieberman, this isn't going to work. And he says, darling, I have an idea. We're going to do a group de research. So first of all, he made me an étoile. I had never studied in the school. It was Serge Lafar and myself have been the only étoiles who've not studied in the school. So the Paris Opera people didn't like that. So we started a group de research, and he said, invite the people in. And this was in the 70s. We had this old wooden door. You never see that anymore. First day, I had 10 people, then I had 30. By the end of 1 month, there were 50 people coming in and out. In and out, in and out. We had classes all day, 10 to 5, Nicolai technique, theory, improvisation, composition. Can you believe this? People going in and out, no security. No one paid for class. And I found the musicians in the metro. We had a hat. This is how crazy. We had a hat. And whoever could put a centime in the hat. This went on for 5 years. And plus, I found the company there. And, you know, when I look back, I didn't know at the time, but this was a revolution. And I must say, at the end of 5 years, I worked with Pietro Galla, Jean-Christophe Perret, etc. So Eric Wunz and all the dancers came downstairs 5 years later, and they said, okay, so I did a work for them. So it's kind of a long story, but how amazing. I happened to be an instigator, and I didn't know it at the time. And Nicolai taught 3 times downstairs when he came to Paris. So I was born to do this, that's for sure. Yeah.
Но руководил Либерман, но балетной труппой в то время кто руководил? Это была Виолетта Верди или кто? Каким-то образом она контактировала с директором балетной труппы?
Violette Verdi.
Да. И никакого контакта между ними не было?
No, between Violette Verdi, yes. But the dancers, I mean, there were so many boos in the public and bravos, I can't tell you. It was like people could throw tomatoes. I don't know. But Violette Verdi always liked the work. But it took 2 years before the opera dancers started coming downstairs. We had a studio downstairs in the basement. Modern dance begins in the basement. But it took quite a long time for them to see what was happening. So, Ralph Lieberman loved that people booed. He said, darling, just keep going. So we kept going.
То есть это было отношение к современному танцу такое в то время?
Absolutely. Because the second piece we did, I had a partner, Lario. He was Indonesian and I was from America. We were a great couple. The bass player was playing the bass. He had long hair, a long robe, and bare feet, playing the contrabass. He came on stage. The people, it was a nightmare. And then I started doing this thing in a square, and people yelled, Bordel, go home, go home. It was incredible. And so I must say people weren't used to this. Also, because I had a super technique. So it wasn't like I couldn't do anything, I mean, but it's the idea, you know why? It was at the Paris Opera. The Paris Opera is the emblem since Louis XIV. It's the opera ballet. And here's a mad woman on stage doing crazy gestures with the bass player bare feet. And so for the French people, it was difficult. I must say, after 5 years, there was peace. But before that, it was quite exciting, actually.
Встречалась, я знаю, что есть фотография, где она с Рудольфом Нуриевым, значит, они вместе танцевали, как они встретились, как это было.
See, this was the idea of Ralph Lieberman, which was good. After the Booze and Bravos and everything, he said, would you like to dance with Nureyev? And I said, dance with Rudolph Nureyev. So Glenn Tetley's choreography. And also, Nureyev was great. He was also like to take a risk. So we said, why not? He came down and saw class one day. And okay. So I said, yes, let's do it. And Nureyev, what a character he was. Deanna, I think you know Nureyev. Very strong character. You know, I mean, he was ready to do it. And he comes at me, you know, like, okay, I see you. And I said, Nureyev, just release, breathe. And he said, release, what step is that? I said, Nureyev, it's not a step, it's a quality. So it was interesting because Glenn Tetley was a great choreography, but Nureyev would come at me like a bull. And I said, if you could just come at me and not come with your horns. And it was interesting. Actually, he did listen to me. So not only choreographing, but we learned to work together. And it was very nice. You know, we're both fish. He's born in March. We're both born on the same day, both fish. So there was this kind of understanding there. But Nureyev had a great imagination. He also was, he was right in the work. Mm-hmm.
Это было показано где? Эта работа была показана в Гарнье, в опера?
Yeah, Paris Opera. Palais Garnier, the big stage. Oh yeah, great success. Live music and yeah. And that's where the public said, oh, a contemporary dancer can work with Nureyev. And after that, I believe Nureyev did many pieces with Martha Graham and also other choreographers. Yeah. I love the Russian character. Diana is really Russian, strong character. That's why I loved working with her. You know, but Deanna, sorry, she has the fragile side. Strong, fragile. That's why I love working with her. And I remember at Roubaix, we had to do, there was many people, they wanted to see a woman in a room. And Deanna said, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm too tired. I'm not going to do it. Okay, I'm finished. And I said, yes, you can, Deanna. And Deanna did it. Really great, a thunderous surprise. So,
заставила поверить, что я все могу.
Yeah.
Yes, you forced me to believe that I'm capable of everything.
That's for sure.
Вот столько лет она уже в Париже, и Париж — это один из любимейших городов многих, и лично мой тоже. И какой Париж для нее? Какой он город для нее по духу, по темпераменту на протяжении вот всей ее жизни там?
Well, culture. I mean, it performed in Théâtre La Ville, Théâtre Chaillot, many performances here. And also, I have a studio here in the Cartoucherie de Vincennes, Atelier de Paris. And we have a great public here. And the French people are extremely interested in culture and art. We have great publics. And yeah. So unfortunately, we're talking about great things, but now it's difficult. But, you know, great museums, theaters, cultural heritage in France, this is for sure. And this is probably why I'm here also. People say, why did I come to France? But I think also France chose me. And my work has developed here. So now, also Venice, you know, and I was in Venice.
Да, хочу задать, что она все-таки после этого периода оперы она хотела вернуться в Америку, но поступило предложение из Венеции или Финикии, и судьба, ее линия судьбы завела в Италию.
I was still, you know, with my companion, John Davis, and I wasn't sure. I wanted to go back to New York. And then I got a phone call. I got a phone call from Italo Gomez saying, I really love what you did in Paris. Would you like to form a group in Italy? And I thought, yeah, I like Europe. And this, I said, okay, I would like to try something there, to form a group. And the crazy thing is, another star, I tell you, it was supposed to be Milano. So Italo Gomez, I said yes. Italo Gomez calls me, said, I'm very sorry, it's in Venice. Oh, I said, Venice too. So this was incredible. So I formed a group in Venice. And this was another revolution. First of all, Paris, 5 years. And then I was 5 years in Venice. And I formed a group, Teatro Danza, Danza La Fenici. And this was incredible because I worked with Italian dancers. And two people from the Paris Opera came with me. And the 5 years there were amazing. The Italian public was surprised that the Italian people could dance contemporary, because you had La Scala, okay, very famous classical, like Paris Opera. But they were amazed at this group because they were Italians. And you know what's nice, because from this group, all the people who are with me are choreographers as the Paris Opera. So I'm also an instigator. I instigated in France, and now the next 5 years was in Italy. And also after that, that's another story, was Helsinki. So I am a nomad. Sure. I don't know where I live. Yeah.
То есть в Италии в то время как такового современного танца не было. Не было тех мастеров, учителей и хореографов.
There were a few. I mean, Caterina Sagna, who was in my company, her mother had a school in Torino. So there were movements going on. But with the Teatro Fenici, we had many tours. So the public was open, more open. So there were a lot of schools and things happening. But I think because we toured a lot, the public was really quite impressed and surprised with the Italian dancers. Anyway.
Да, и дальше путешествие по театральной карте мира ее занесло в Финляндию, и потом она уже работала в Кульбер-балете. Вот про этот период вообще ничего особо не известно, и она заменила Мацека, или это еще было руководство его мамы, Бриджит Кульбер. Как это все было? Как она, и почему она там дольше не задержалась, а это было всего 2 года? Хотелось услышать бы об этом периоде ее.
Mацeka just left. And Pierre Barnier said, why don't you apply? And I said, the Kohlberg, okay. So we applied, and then the company auditioned me, and they said, okay, you will stay here for 2 years. And I knew of Mats Ek's work, but I didn't know him at the time until after I did the creation there. It was difficult in the beginning to work with the Kohlberg Ballet. Of course, because Mats Ek was the director. And Mats Ek, who was a great choreographer, he really choreographed. He knew what he wanted. And then, he worked beforehand, and he had a plan when he came in. I had a plan of ideas when I came in. So I told the company what I felt about the piece, and we started improvising. Oh, difficult. We don't improvise. We've never improvised. So I must say the first couple of months were extremely difficult, because I told them this is how I work. Mm-hmm. And slowly they got into the idea of improvising, but I had to start choreographing very fast also with their improvisations. because it was totally the opposite from Matt's work. Totally different style, another approach. And at the end, the piece was called Sub Rosa. Mats saw it, and he said, chapeau. Well, very good work. But, it was so difficult with the piece. I found my years there, it was not for me to continue with the ballet. But I must say, after that, I worked with 2 people after that. I gave them solos. And also, from that experience, there were others who started choreographing. So again, I was an instigator, but I didn't stay very long.
Да, невозможно не спросить мне и не поговорить о Пине Бауш, и не только потому, что сегодня весь театральный мир отмечает ее 80-летие со дня рождения, но мне кажется, что про Пину с Каролин можно вообще делать отдельный диалог. Они были дружны и творили в одно время, и я хотела бы узнать ее. Они для меня как земля и воздух, совершенно разные, но очень явно поддерживали друг друга, и какой она ее помнит.
Well, first of all, Pina was one of the greatest unique choreographers of the 20th century. Her theater dance, I always admired what she did, which I could never do. Pina was really, she was earth. She worked with men and women, fragile, poetic. She was just incredible. It's interesting because 3 dancers from Pina Bausch worked with me also. So we exchanged dancers. Dominique Messi, Malu Arrido, Hélène, who did choreography for me in Venice. Well, how I admired this woman. I was in the Paris Opera. People were booing at me, and she was in Wuppertal. People were booing at her. Totally different. But how, for all Pina's work, she was the most soft-spoken woman. Pina would talk like this. Hello, Carolyn. It's so nice to see you again. And it was amazing for her work, the strength of her work, but she was very inside and very soft. And also she had this kind of aura sometimes of being tormented in a good way, I would say, because you could feel her suffering inside. And that's why she did the great work she did. She comes, I don't know exactly her history, but what she has given to the dance world and the theater world was very German also. I think of Kurt Jooss and the Green Table. It comes from this Germanic suffering, which I say is in a good sense. And the last time I met Pina, she was performing in the Théâtre de la Ville, and I saw her just before, of course, chain smoking in her dressing room. And she was in front of her computer looking at the performances the night before to say what the dancers had changed. I have never in the world seen, she was such a perfectionist. She would go through 2 hours and look at every detail. Unbelievable. So this woman worked probably 48 hours. She worked in her sleep. She worked every minute. And her whole life was her work. And what's funny? Because of her personality, she lived every moment so intense that I feel somehow her suffering at times is overwhelming. Again, I don't criticize that. I think what a great strength this was that she gave to other people. Also, she is a poet. I don't say not only suffering. She took it also in 2 ways. Pina was also a poet. She's a person who could, in her work, you could see tears and laughter in the same scene. She had such a gift. She she could turn things around from A to Z in one movement. And also, she also worked in improvisation. You know, as myself, I work more on poetic images. Pina really worked with people. She worked with emotions. I work more in perceptions, but Pina worked on people. I think we were always jealous of each other, to tell you the truth.
Я могу сказать о себе, что это тоже огромное счастье, что я успела. Я буквально за полгода я смогла с ней поработать в Вуппертале и приехала. И та история Вуппертальского фестиваля, она повлияла на то, что в какой-то момент в своей жизни я создала фестиваль в России, потому что это вот объединение и соединение людей. И то, как она работала со мной, когда она просто попросила: Диана, все прекрасно, а вот вы можете мне еще кассеты ваших классических балетов показать? Я говорю: Пина, а зачем вам? Я же приехала именно набраться опыта и научиться вот от вас, и что-то увидеть в себе. И, конечно, были это невероятно. Я жутко была в полном страхе, но это были невероятные. Она все время удивлялась и поражалась какой-то внутренней красоте и красоте моих рук. Но я помню, как она взяла мои кассеты классические, поставила в телевизор, и уже идет спектакль, уже там фестиваль, там куча народу. Она смотрит, не отрываясь, мой Жизель, и спрашивает меня: а можете это станцевать? Я говорю: Пина, ну как, ну это же современный фестиваль. Я умоляю вас, можете это станцевать, что-то, вот Манон или Жизель, это так красиво. То есть она совершенно открыла для себя, видимо, какое-то что-то новое вдруг, и очень хотела поделиться этим. И это было невероятно. У нас, конечно, были какие-то тоже и дальнейшие планы, но через полгода ее не стало.
But see, that's another side of Pina that's amazing. Because Pina, it wasn't that tragic either. She loved beauty. And she loved beautiful things. I mean, she was a phenomenon. All right.
Меня поражает Каролин, с какой смелостью, без любой тени сомнения, по крайней мере, так кажется со стороны, погружается в новое и бросает всегда вызов самой себе. И, например, она, я знаю, ставила хореографию на лошадей. То есть в спектакле были задействованы лошади. Это была совместная постановка ее компании с французским конным театром Зингера, который возглавляет Бартабаса, изобретатель этого театра. И вот хотелось бы рассказать, как она даже в этом преуспела.
Yes. Bartabas is still working, but curious now, he's doing a solo program. One horse and Bartabas. So he's okay. Horses don't get COVID, so that's okay. Okay. I always admired Bartabas. I loved his show. The horses. You know, my father was a veterinarian. Mm-hmm. He was it was for animal doctor. So I grew up with horses, and it was always a dream to work with him. So I was at the Centre Choreographique, and I said, Bartabas, I would like to work with you. He said, okay. So we worked with his, how many dancers? I had 18, I think 18 or 20 dancers. And it was the school, the equestrian school we worked with, and the horses. And it was very difficult in the beginning because some of the dancers were very afraid of the horses. I mean, when you get close to them, I mean, I'm sorry, their ass, they're very big. They back up. And so it took 3 dancers a long time to get used to them. That's for sure. And that was an interesting piece because we were in a circle in the center, and the horses were around, and sometimes we changed, and we danced in the shit. They danced on the top. It was an incredible experience to work with Bartabas, really, because you know, it's funny. After we were dancing in the dirt, in sand, and on a sand stage, and it was so nice for once to get off linoleum, to get off a floor. And when I did my next piece, I said, can we put dirt on the floor? I could have missed that. But it was a great experience to work with animals. I mean, it was just amazing. And especially the white horses, the Arabian. because they were very delicate, and then the big workhorses. And it was nice because I also choreographed for the women on the horses. Remember Sarah, she was with me. So we were choreographing on the ground, and then we did the same choreography as the riders on the horses. They were women, and the dancers. So it was very interesting to work in this way.
Лошади тоже импровизировали?
No, they can't. No, see, this is the thing. When we rehearse with Barnabas, they can only work 2 hours a day because they get confused. Only 2 hours. So they had to know the choreography. And one of my dancers, who's very lazy, said, we only work 2 hours also. Very nice. See, this was what was interesting. Also, the horses don't know they're performing. They don't get nervous. So we can't be nervous, and the riders can't be nervous. So when we rehearse a piece, we can only rehearse for 1 hour the same thing, and I can't improvise because the horses have to see the same thing. Interesting. So I improvised with my dancers before, but then we had to choreograph, and I couldn't change the choreography because the horses remember, and they remember music. It's amazing. So it was a slow process to work for sure. But you know what? I remember so much with Barnabas. Every time you work, be calm because the horses get stressed. Isn't that interesting? Because they can't tolerate when somebody, when they feel vibrations. So this was a good lesson. No, wait. Mm-hmm. At the very end of the show, Barnabas had an idea. There's a horse diagonal, and then the dancer comes. And then the horse goes this way, and the dancers come. And then horse, dancer. Well, what happened? The more shows we did, the horses got faster and faster. It was incredible. I was praying for my dancers, and I remember one dancer had to roll over because he couldn't do it. And I had an assistant, and his hands were bleeding. I was like, Henry, no. But it's incredible. When the dancers know, when the horses know something, they get excited. This was the end. And it was a spectacular end, I tell you.
Удивительно, в России говорят, работаешь как лошадь, то есть работаешь очень много и сильно. Оказывается, лошадь всего может работать 2 часа, не работает. Присказка русская.
And that's true. That's very good, Diana. That's true.
Я знаю, что Каролин очень хотела снимать кино, и у нас был проект, где она приглашала своих любимых артистов, и предложение поступило мне, к чему я очень благодарна, это для меня большая честь, но из-за внешних обстоятельств, и особенно, я так понимаю, финансовых моментов, этот проект пока не воплотился в жизнь. И вот в связи с этим я хотела узнать, как быть хореографом, когда они встречаются с такими трудностями, нужен ли менеджер, продюсер, как обезопасить себя и свои проекты, особенно вот ваш совет необходим, конечно, и молодым хореографам, начинающим.
No, but you know what's difficult? It's my dream to do a film, and I asked Diana to be one of the lead characters. But you know what the problem is? Cinema is so expensive. They said there's $1 million. That's the cheapest. I mean, so far, you know what? We're still working on it. Now, it's been 6 years. Still, I have faith. I don't know. But first of all, I think I can do the film for sure because it's like I choreograph. I'm a visual poet. I think I could do a cinema. First of all, I'm not a filmmaker, and it's going to be an underground film. Not underground, but it's my work. It's a poetic film. And the cinema right now is kind of allergic to poetry. Oh, poetic film. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are pro and con. What's different? I accept absolutely what's happening now. Especially now, you know, there's so many films that you can't see that are being postponed. So, I mean, I still hope I can do this film, hopefully on Netflix. Because Netflix has a good, I mean, why not? Okay, that's online, but even with the cinema now, they do very open things. And believe it or not, Deanna, we have a new meeting with the Netflix people. I won't give up. I don't give up. But if they say no, then I accept. But you know what's so hard? I'm talking to the young choreographers who are working today. Very difficult. Again, I grew up with Alan Nicolai. We had the theater at disposal. I was in the Paris Opera with Rolf Lieberman. I had Italo Gomez, Gerard Violette, Théâtre de Ville. I always had these impresarios with me, and Claire de Zorzi is incredible, who's been by my side now for 20 years. Mm-hmm. So I come from this generation, which is slowly going away because there are not so many impresarios as there used to be. But now Diana is doing a fantastic work in Russia with her group. I mean, this is incredible. I mean, people like Diana, people like her, we need people opening up festivals who believe in the dance world. Now it's difficult for the young people even to get work. I mean, financially, it's even hard for myself financially with the company. Because of the pandemic, because of what's happening in the world today, I mean, economically. So I called Diana Vishneva. She'll invite you. No, but the thing is, you know, just hearing what Diana's doing now after our company, I would love to open up a festival. We have Atelier de Paris, but I'm not the chef anymore. I don't control it. I'm an honorary member. But okay, we're doing good things at the Atelier because Anne Sauvage is getting young people. But you know, there's not impresarios like there were before who believed in the person. They said, okay, I'll give you the theater. And also there's more people working. When I worked at the Paris Opera, maybe there were 4 choreographers, Théâtre de Silence, Béjar, Philip Blascow, etc. But now in Paris alone, I think there must be 200 dance companies. And even so, it's not easy. But I suggest, if you really have a will, if you have a heart, you have a desire, just keep going. Keep going. Could I add another thing? I want to make a difference between impresarios. I can't, it's not all true. I mean, now the theater directors, we have Théâtre de la Ville, Théâtre de Chaillot in Paris, which are incredible. I mean, when you can go, I mean, Théâtre de la Ville has an incredible program. They have 4 theaters in Paris, and also Théâtre de Chaillot has an incredible dance program. So there are people working, but they're director of theaters. And I don't know about the other countries. It's great. Pina's group is always going on in Wuppertal with the people taking care of a repertoire. But I know in Paris, there's 2 incredible theaters, also the Atelier, which is very small, who does things. So there are opportunities to work. But for the young people to get into the circuit, I don't know. Well, what's happening in St. Petersburg and Russia in general? Are the theaters open? Are the groups working?
Ну, самый первый театр, который открылся в августе, это был Мариинский театр. Все было закрыто, и все как бы были до сентября в отпусках. Мариинский начал работать в августе и до сих пор работает. И если это сначала была какая-то рассадка 50%, то сейчас это уже 70%, а иногда полные залы. Все драматические театры тоже сейчас заработали, но они работают как? В режиме 10-дневного репертуара. И если кто-то заболевает из основного состава, спектакль за день, за два отменяют. То есть также у нас, если много заболевших, у нас отменяется «Лебединое». Если у нас разделена труппа, работает одна половина труппы утром, другая половина вечером. Одни танцуют одни спектакли, другие, чтобы создать какой-то такой баланс, чтобы следить. И каждые 2 недели делают всем тесты, потому что человек может не заболевать, но у него может быть положительный тест, его сразу закрывают на карантин и, естественно, его семью. И вот я хотела как раз задать вопрос, что мы понимаем, что без зрителей, без вот этой энергии это совершенно другой театр онлайн. Но, может быть, она придумает историю, как уже снимать спектакли онлайн с какой-то именно художественной энергией и поэзией, и чтобы это превращалось в искусство, не просто технически здорово снять спектакль, а в то же время уже режиссировать, чтобы он был снят и показан онлайн достаточно вот интересно. Не просто как картинка визуальная.
Yes, I'm going to do the movie I want to do. That's why I talk about visual poetry. I'm sure we did something in Zoom in April with the company in different rooms with my poetry. Very interesting. But you see, that's another thing. The only advantage online, I tell you what, you can see my hand close. On stage, we are always the same size. Mm-hmm. But it's not bad if you do something. I mean, it's totally different. For me, it's doing more like cinema online. You know, you can see the dancer's face close. I mean, if I go way, way, way back here, I mean, you can't see me. So that's a challenge. So that's more like making you have to fit the person in a box. Right?
Один из таких очень для меня вот вопросов, которые я очень хотела задать, что в танце обычно мы не задаемся вопросом гендерной принадлежности, расы или возраста постановщика. Нас интересует то, как конкретный хореограф транслирует свои переживания или же отношения к сегодняшней картине мира, переносит все это в язык танца или жеста. Но все же интересно, смотрит ли женщина-хореограф иначе на тело и его гравитацию в пространстве сцены. Все-таки есть ли четкая женская линия в танце или границы размыты? Например, для меня работа с Каролин, с Пиной Бауш, с Сол Леон очень отличалась от того, как я привыкла работать с хореографами-мужчинами. То есть они словно заглядывают внутрь в свою душу, вот, и больше исходит от артистической составляющей нутра. И я совершенно другой представляюсь в глазах, и прежде всего даже для самой себя становлюсь иной. И вот я хотела узнать вот об этом, и вопрос такой, сложнее ли женщине-хореографу состояться, есть ли какое-то давление извне, и когда-либо она сталкивалась с ним?
First of all, you know, that really depends on each choreographer and their character. But I find in general, women by nature have a compassion. They're children bearers, they're mothers. And I think women have a sympathy towards the perceptions and emotions of people. But, you know, I can't say that because it depends on the person. You think Hofester, you know, this new choreographer, this Israeli, he's incredible. Hofester. He's really, but he's a man. He's really, I don't see a woman doing this. Also Israeli. I love his work. I just love his work. But, yeah, I think there is a difference because I think men might be more straightforward, and women have another sense of intuition. I mean, that's just my feeling. But that, you know, I read the question. It's a hard question because you also have male choreographers who are very sensible and have this feminine quality. But you know, people ask me this question: is it difficult to be a woman choreographer? I don't know because I'm a woman, and It's, I mean, I've had a great success in my career, but it is true. I don't know why, you know, it's very strange. I saw this very interesting interview on visual arts. A woman does a painting, it's 2,000 euro. A man does the same painting, it's 50,000. There's something about when it's a man, the price goes higher because it's a masculine sign. So I think there might still be a little bit of a gender gap between the men being a little bit more important than the men. It's hard question.
Ой, у меня еще столько много вопросов, но я все равно хочу как-то уже, естественно, подзавершить, и лучше мы сделаем вторую встречу, и я их все равно задам, и, конечно, сейчас я все равно хочу поблагодарить лично сейчас в эфире Каролины, поговорить о нашей женщине в комнате, хочу ей не задавать вопросы, а просто свой опыт ощущения себя в движении, вообще тот иной процесс репетиции, который она для меня открыла. Удивительно, что как через разговор вопросы идут в путь в импровизацию. Меня никогда, естественно, этому не учились. И обращаясь с вами на вопросы, как бы сделала это я, мне тоже никто не давал этой свободы. И все это было так естественно, поэтому ты где-то даже становишься где-то каким-то соавтором этой постановки. И все это было для меня впервые, и настолько для хореографа важно вот это внимание к деталям, к твоему настроению внутри, к твоему прошлому, к твоей памяти, во что я одета, какой на мне купальник на репетиции, чтобы он превратился в какую-то сценическую одежду на спектакле, насколько воображение рождает образы, казалось бы, абсолютно из обыденного. То, что я пришла на спектакль «Знаки» в Париже на каблуках, и она мне тут же сказала: ой, как это здорово, мы будем это использовать в нашем спектакле, в нашем монологе. Я думала, что она, конечно, шутит, но вышло в итоге, что действительно я была и на каблуках, и с ножом, и с лимонами, и идея стола, как пришла, просто было огромное количество книг, где мы совершенно рассуждали об этом, и потом этот стол превратился в моего тоже определенного партнера на сцене. И рубашка, которую я сказала, что я ношу дома мужа рубашку, она тоже в итоге вышла в костюм. То есть это все просто вот становится очень с ее стороны автобиографичным, наверное. Где-то, конечно, ставя на меня, очень автобиографичным становится с моей стороны. И та же идея с лимонами, которые метафора жизни, радость, горечь там одновременно. И удивительно, насколько она сразу меня открыла. Обычно такое происходит там на второй, третий год, ну, в смысле, встречи, работы с хореографом, причем работы над новой постановкой. И как хорошо, что мы репетировали в этом прекрасном ее месте Карташери, где мы могли погрузиться в эту работу каждодневную, столько часов, в эту атмосферу, когда никто не мешает. И Анастасия Ценко, которая программный директор фестиваля, мы все втроем были очарованы друг другом, причем во всем понимании творчества, стилистики. И с таким удовольствием работали над теми большим роликом, с которым я с ней сделала, «Керастас». И я просто хочу сказать, что то произведение, которое она мне подарила, и которое мы создали 40 минут, без паузы, и на зрителя в постоянном напряжении, я никогда не думала, что это возможно. И после того, как мы закончили эту постановку, Каролина сказала, что мы обязательно должны сделать новый монолог, новое соло на 1,5 часа. И сегодня с рождением сына, с моими переходными моментами в карьере как классического артиста, у меня, конечно, я уже другая женщина, и, конечно, уже в другой комнате. Я, конечно, очень жду встречи, когда этот мир немножко в турбуленцию пройдет, и мы вновь сможем встретиться с ней. Так много наговорила.
Boy, that was a lot. Thank you. And thank you very much, Deanna. And I look forward to seeing your son. And for the next piece, we'll have much to talk about, many memories.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Caroline, and all the best from both my heart.
You too. Thank you. Thank you, Deanna.